Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Steph Sells Homes podcast. Today is episode 32, and I'm very grateful for our guest today. She has a lot of knowledge, a lot to share. But before I introduce her, I do want to give a quick shout out to my sponsors. Number one is Cameron at ADU West Coast. I record my podcast sessions week in, week out here at his office. And also Sean 10K at Digital 10K Cards. For those of you who follow me on Instagram or YouTube, you guys have seen my stepsellsadu.com page. He handles all of that marketing. So as a gift, also, I gift every guest a digital card. So I'll make sure I give you one, Kristi. And yeah, I really want to dive deep into this. I think, like I said, we're gonna have a lot of information. Our special guest today has built 9 ADUs, and we're gonna talk about how she got that done. But before we get there, I would like for her to introduce herself and give us a little backstory. Thank you, Kristi, for being on the show, and thank you for reaching out to me. I really appreciate that. You taking action. I think that this value that you're giving us today is needed, and it was probably one of the most informative podcasts that I'm gonna have, like I told you. So
Awesome.
welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Stephanie. I appreciate it. I just want to be able to share some of my experience. I mean, I just feel like I've made so many mistakes. People might as well learn from them and try to avoid making those mistakes themselves. And I've done a few things right along the way. So if you can learn from that too, that would be good information. So, yeah, I basically my backstory is I moved from Canada in 2007. I can't believe it's been that long.
Oh wow.
Um, and I was just coming to see, maybe about starting a real estate business. And then, here we are, I don't know, 16 years later or whatever it is.
Did you move
So
to Long Beach when you
I
moved from
did.
Canada?
Yes, I moved straight to Long Beach. I've lived in Long Beach for just over 10 years, and I'm sort of between LA and Orange County now. But I
Okay.
know mostly all of Southern California. And yeah, I just came with, I saw Flip That House on TV and thought, maybe I could remodel houses and, not really any experience whatsoever, but I knew I wanted to do something with real estate. So I jumped in with both feet and actually developed a bit of a niche, which is working with houses that are hoarded. So you might have seen that TV show, Hoarders.
Hoarders,
So
yes.
yeah, that's the type of home I buy mostly. But then I realized over time that, you need to do something for a retirement plan. Like anybody, if you're a realtor, if you're an investor, if you have just a day job, think about what you're going to do at some point in your life. You don't want to keep trading your time for income.
Right.
So, and that's what, flipping houses is. You've got to go get that next house. If you're a realtor, you have to go get that next listing for the commission.
Right.
So around 2018, and this brings us to our topic for today, ADUs came around. I think it was actually 2017, but I didn't hear about it till 2018. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a few houses that I mean, houses in California are hard to make sense as rental properties because
Right.
they're so expensive and the rents, you can't really get the rents to match the mortgage or cover the mortgage. So I thought, well, if I build an ADU, then between the two rents, I could I could have that work as a rental property. So in rental properties is my choice for passive, income down the road. So, and anybody can do this, and some people are starting to build ADUs just to house maybe a family member, or
Right.
maybe they're putting a renter in, or whatever the reason, maybe just have a little bit extra income. California has this housing shortage, and I think it's actually one of the good things that the state has done to try to infuse some housing into the market. And they're affordable. They're brand new units in your backyard or a garage conversion. They can be detached, they can be attached, a garage conversion, like I said, and you can actually have up to 4 units
Right.
on one property now. I mean, that's an R1 single family zoned property. And when I heard that, I thought that's just amazing. Now you don't want to go out of control and just overbuild and jam
Yes.
up the
Yes.
neighborhood. But if you do it tactfully, it's a great way to have extra income for yourself if you use them as rentals and provide much needed housing. So 2018, I was probably one of the first ones doing them, kind of just
Yeah, that's what I
My
was gonna
legs.
say because 2017, I have this presentation where I show a graph just for context, but I know these numbers. In 2015, there was 3,000 ADUs submitted to the city in 2017. Between 2018 and 2020, there were over 24,000 permitted and over 34,000 in the permitting process.
Yep.
And that
Yeah.
2 year span. So it
Yeah.
was really like you were probably one of the first ones to build. And it's crazy that you saw that strategy so early on. I started working on ADUs in 2017, being a buyer's agent, right, and working with only investors and buyers. People had questions about what can I do with this garage because you couldn't make sense of the rents, like you said, right? So
Yeah.
people wanted to get creative with space. They wanted to figure out how they can maximize space. And I'm here just a realtor looking at my document, like, oh, well, memorizing bedroom, bathroom count, and lot size, and that was pretty much it. Right?
Yep.
And now I'm like, okay, I need to seriously level up and understand development, understand the permitting process. There's so many, and then I realized there's so many moving pieces. However, it's the strategy to go in order to for you to tap into today's market. So
Yeah.
now I bring this strategy to my clients' awareness, whether they know about it or not, whether it's in their radar or not. Maybe they want to buy a home, but they don't know about ADUs. I still bring it up to them. And most of the time they're mind blown because the numbers make sense, right? You're creating forced appreciation while also collecting some cash flow and being able to survive here in LA. And of course, there's some things I have to give, right? We have to live denser. But just like you said, don't overbuild. I also tell my clients to maybe look at the option of building on top of the garage so you keep integrity of the garage or
Mhm.
extending out, and keeping some garage space because what's going to happen with all these garage conversions, and I know that over 70% of these ADUs are garage conversions,
Mhm.
what's going to happen with all the parking, right? And it's
Mhm.
already bad enough in places like LA, downtown Long Beach. And that's a whole other topic that we can get into. But I think that being mindful of your strategy is always crucial, especially for long term. And now, when you started identifying these hoarder homes, first of all, how do you tap into that market? Like, how do you even find these homes? How do you finance these homes? Right?
Well, you're right, and that's a whole other, podcast probably, but,
Probably, but maybe
yeah,
just briefly. I think that's a double niche, right? Her niche is hoarder homes. On top of that, creating value add through ADUs.
yeah,
That's a double niche. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's, well, that's just a matter of networking over the years to and I do everything by referral, so, this is the best way to do business.
Best way.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, somebody will call me or maybe it's some heirs that have a property and they just don't know how to handle that, and so that will be a property I can go in and buy and fix up. But yeah, I just kept selling all these houses, and you've seen if you've been in real estate for a while, you know how appreciation works in California. You know, it's
Right.
amazing. If I look back on the ones I bought in 2010, man, wouldn't be doing this call. I'd be sitting on the beach somewhere. But yeah, it's just the values have gone up threefold. So I really wanted to start keeping some of those properties. So that's when, the odd one I go, okay, this is an area I like for a rental property. And it makes sense because I can build the ADU and the rents I can get from the ADU will offset, and just make the whole thing make sense. So, and
Right.
especially you as a realtor, if you understand even the basic, ADU rules, like just go to the state website, you can get the ADU rules from there just to get a sense of what you can do for your clients. That's so smart because a lot of people still don't know what the basic rules are. So,
Well,
and
it's
as you
I'm glad you
know,
mentioned that because I'm speaking at the Redondo Beach Association of Realtors tomorrow about ADUs. And I've kind of created my own team where we go to different real estate offices and educate other realtors because I understand that other realtors don't know this strategy because I didn't at one point. So, that they may say that they understand basics, but most of them don't even know how to identify ADU potential, maybe even zoning and how important zoning will dictate, the amount of build that you can maximize. But yeah, there's so many components to it that I started creating a team, and now all I do is advocate on ADUs and teach other realtors and how they can bring this strategy to their to other homeowners or other investors, and do exactly what you said, right? Is how can we keep these properties and create some cash flow that makes sense. Now, are most of your rentals or the ADUs rentals, and are they long term, short term, or midterm?
All the above. Well, I should say with ADUs, you're not allowed to do short-term
Yes,
rentals.
yes.
And by short-term, that means 30
Anything
days or
under
less.
30.
So
Yeah,
like Airbnb, people know it as.
right,
So, and I don't want to do that anyway. It's just too much management.
right.
So I do some midterm, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute. I
Mhm.
did put together a
Oh
few
yeah, she has a
to show everybody.
presentation, guys, that oh my God, it's gonna be very very knowledgeable episode today for sure because we'll get to see her properties and the visuals and yeah, but before we get there, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
So
to cut
yeah,
you off.
midterm you could say is maybe anywhere from 1 to 9 months.
Right,
And that really worked out well for me during the pandemic because I had a few of them furnished anyway. And I thought, why not just, there were still a lot of traveling nurses, and there's still a turnover every 3 to 5 months is sort of my average. So you have to get in there and, stock supplies and all that, but you get a slightly higher rent, if you don't mind, that turnover, and a really good quality person. They're just here on contract to work for, a certain amount of time. Having said that, I've also just rented some vacant. And that's just kind of knowing the rent. You can go to Rent-A-Meter is one
right.
thing I use to sort of gauge how much the rent could be. Maybe Zillow too would have an idea of how much you could rent them for. And then from there, I rent the vacant ones too, just either on a month to month or a year lease at a time. So
Yeah, I think those two strategies are the ones that I'm going for. And it's funny you say that because I just had a webinar with one of my friends who's a midterm rental expert, and he's cash flowing a lot. Just 5 properties out in Modesto in the middle of nowhere. But it works because he comes from a healthcare background. So he knew how to reach out to specific agencies and recruiters that house these travel nurses, and that became his niche. So he
mm,
only does midterm with some short term, but and long term. But I think right now the main strategy would be midterm and long term. I personally don't like short term either. It's a high turnover. You have to worry about ordinance changes or your local city banning short term rentals and things like that. Whereas with midterm rental, like you said, there's still nothing is passive, even with long term, it still requires maintenance. But what I like about the midterm rental model versus long term, even, is the fact that you still have access to your properties every couple of months. And even though
yes,
it's a turnover, it's a very, very, I'm sure, low turnover rate, every 3 to 4 months. And you're getting to maximize your returns, sometimes 3 to 4x, what it would be versus long term. And it's really not that much more work, I would say, right? Because of the quality of tenant that you're getting.
yes,
100%.
yep, yep. I agree with all that. Yeah, that's been a great strategy, and especially, and I only do that for the studios and one bedrooms. That doesn't work really, at least for me, in for the two bedrooms.
Okay.
And I should mention where most of these are. It's South LA County, so Long Beach area, and North Orange County. So that's my little pocket of
Those are the
rentals.
areas you feel
Yeah,
comfortable in. And
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
So everybody
I
should do
think
their
that
homework
that's
on that.
given us a lot of clarity and help as far as how this all came about and how maybe in the presentation that you're going to give us, you can briefly touch on how you funded each project, the time frame, and a bit more insight to each one if you don't mind sharing your screen.
Sure, yeah, let's
She's
do
going to
that
be
now.
sharing her presentation, guys, which is great. I already got a sneak peek, but all right.
Oops. Oops, hang on. Here we go. Can you see that? Uh, there we go. Can you see that first slide? Oh, you're muted, Stephanie.
No, I don't
Mhm.
see it. I just see the email with the Zoom
Oh,
call.
oh gosh. Okay, let's see. right, let's try again. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect. We're good now.
All right. All right. You can see the first one, Los Angeles ADU attached to
Yes.
the back of the garage. Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to show this one as an example of there's so many ways you can put an ADU. You can convert existing space. You get this one here. I attached it to the back of the garage. You should not convert every garage, in my opinion, because sometimes garages are more valuable to keep as a garage, especially in a parking impacted area. So the picture on the right is the aerial shot, and this property is actually the one with the two cars you can see there, and then the house, and then that white part is the garage. So I kept that as a garage, and then the ADU is attached to the back of it. But you could see that it's appropriate for the neighborhood because there's other, R2 zoning and other multi-unit properties. So it wasn't like I was trying to cram it in. I felt like I still kind of did it appropriately. But that's one example of something I did, and you still keep the two parking spaces off street at the front there as well.
Now, when you
So
bought this home, you already had this one before building the ADU, or you bought it with the intention of building an ADU?
I bought it with the intention of building, and I actually resold this property. In hindsight, I should have kept it, but this is probably one of the ones that I'm like, maybe these make sense to keep.
To
So
keep,
that was
right?
one of my
Yeah.
first, yeah.
Well, I mean, you live and learn. Can you share a little
Yes.
bit about, I have a process when I help clients or when it's for my own, um, I have a process of analyzing the property before we even go see it, right? So it looks like you did your research before you even went to go look at it, especially with the aerial view. What are some tips and hacks that you can share with people that you look out for? Do you look at it being, having that detached garage, looking at the setbacks, looking at zoning? What does zoning tell you, and what does these aerial views share a little bit of more insight on that?
Yeah, there's a lot, but I mean, one of the things that um if I were to look at a property like this again, what is really useful is if there's an alleyway at the back of the property. Because now, instead of that ADU tenant having to walk down that drive to get to their ADU, they can access it through the back, and you can also usually get an off-street parking. Now, this lot was a bit narrow for that, but it is possible to do an off-street parking spot at the rear off the alley as well. So that's sort of a useful thing.
I would add to that as well. I was at a listing appointment yesterday in North Long Beach, and after I was going in for a listing appointment, and I walked out with it being an ADU consultation. Because after looking at his property, I saw that the neighbor had built an ADU, and I said, "Why would you sell this to go live in Lakewood?" Because that was his intention. I said, "Why don't you keep this? You build the ADU. Now you have two units that are cash flowing that will help you offset your mortgage for that new home in Lakewood, and you have enough equity to where you can do a HELOC for 150,000, and that should fund that garage conversion in the back." And he was just blown away. And we walked around the corner, and it was a corner lot, so prime. One of the things I look for is making sure if it's a corner lot, even better. But if there's alley access that is very close to the sewer line, there's less
Yes.
trenching that needs to get involved, which means that's
Mhm.
less cost. And these are just things that any consumer would not know to look out for, right? So that's why I was asking you, what is your thought process when analyzing them? And what you brought up on your end, which was making sure that you can create some sort of access for the new tenant is ideal, right? Make it private and make it to where there's just access for them from a different angle or a different entrance to make it more
Yeah.
independent, right? From the
Yeah.
main home.
Yeah, exactly. I guess when ultimately I liked a certain area to hold the property as well. And like I mentioned, that's Long Beach and North Orange County. And I just seem to get really, not that LA you couldn't do it too, but um I like things within a certain radius, so it's just a lot to own property everywhere. I mean, not that you can't do that, but just my personal preference. So that was another thing I like to consider. But yeah, and I've done garage conversions too. Let's move on to the next one. This was actually an already permitted rumpus room above a garage. So you mentioned that earlier. I mean, this was ideal. I walked into this, and this is Lake Arrowhead, and I've since sold this one. But I wanted to give an idea because there's lots of these two-story homes with this great big room. It's nice to have the room. Why not turn it into something you can make some money? So this space was about 900 square feet. And so the county of San Bernardino required to get a floor plan drawn. So this was kind of what we sketched up, a one bedroom. In hindsight, maybe I could have put a second bedroom in there, but nice big space. And that was it. We just paid for permits. This was a really cheap one to do in the county of San Bernardino. It was fairly straightforward to work with. You just submit permits right online. And I furnished this, and this one was rented month to month. So, and this is what it looks like. So yeah, nice big
Wow, that's
space.
nice. Is that
Yeah.
under 500? Yeah, right? Under 500 square feet or a little bigger?
No, this was about 900.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, it was,
that's the one
yeah,
from the previous picture?
yes. Yeah. This is 900 square feet. So you've
Oh,
got your living
wow.
room, kitchen, another kitchen shot there, and then the
And
bedroom.
this was on top of the garage?
Yeah. It's a big
900?
garage. It was a big
Okay,
garage.
okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
most garages here are about 400 to
Yeah.
600, right? And
Yes.
I've
And I've
sold
looked
in
at,
Lake Arrowhead. What made you want to buy this one? Was it the potential of the rumpus room already being there for
yeah.
900 square feet? I think
Yes.
that answers my own
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what?
Wow.
This was so full of clutter that I didn't even see the potential when I first bought it. So I
Mm.
had to get everything out of there. And then it was like, oh, here's a nice big space that's easily converted to a second unit
Which would
with
have been a
that.
cool rental, right? If you would have
Yeah.
kept it too at
Yeah.
900 plus
Yeah.
what was the main unit? Like a
Main
2-1?
unit was about 1700 or so. I did keep this as a rental for about 4 years.
Oh,
So
wow. Oh,
I just
wow.
sold it last month actually, right before the snowstorm.
Oh
So
my
I got
God.
I got out just in time. But yeah, I enjoyed this property. I
I
enjoyed
think
this
you did
property.
very well with it too.
Yeah,
If you kept it
yeah,
for 4 years, I mean, the properties were just appreciating even in that
yeah,
market. So,
yeah, yeah. But
oh,
again, like I mentioned, I wanted my rentals ultimately in one area. So
yeah, I
this one
mean, you said
is,
above the garage, and I was way off there with the square footage because I don't think I've ever seen a
yeah,
build out of 900 square feet on top of a garage.
yeah.
At
Yeah,
least
normally
here, Long Beach and
you've
Lakewood. No.
yeah, you would have like 4 or 500. And
Right.
in my opinion, if you're 450, I would really just try to keep that as a studio. Some people like
Right.
to fit a bedroom in, but to me it gets a little
I
cramped.
think 600 to 700 is a good one bedroom. 750 plus, maybe a two bedroom, 2-2. It would be a bit tight, but I see that a lot. So this
I'm
one's in
gonna
Stanton.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
gonna show you a 500 square foot one bedroom ADU, and this is probably my favorite design. So you can see the picture on the left. The
Hmm.
main house on the left is 1700 square feet. The little house there beyond the avocado tree is 500 square, so I built that. And then the garage I converted to a junior ADU. A junior ADU has to be a conversion of existing space that's already attached to the house.
Right.
And the city, because of that breezeway, you can see,
Hmm.
technically it's attached. They allowed me to convert that to junior ADU. And this has been a great property. You can still fit 4 cars in the driveway, two on the right for the ADU, two on the left for the main house. The street is only impacted by 1 car in the junior ADU. So, and
Oh
you'd never
yeah.
know you've got 3 units in this single family zoned neighborhood here.
So single
So,
family turned into a triplex. I think for realtors or even investors who are looking for a property, I think analyzing the property like this before even going to go look at it, before submitting an offer, is super helpful. You really want to get a somewhat of a feasibility analysis on your home before you
Yeah.
go and do these projects. But that was prime example of how to turn a single family into a triplex. So you go from 1 to 3 doors. Can you share how much they're each one's being rented out for? Just curious on those numbers.
Oh, well, sure. So, right now I'm actually occupying the garage as a office space, which technically as an owner, if you're going to build 3 units, you have to be occupying one of them. And then the ADU, I'm under market value there. It's 2,000 a month, and that's being rented furnished month to month. I get 2,600 for a 1 bedroom ADU in Garden Grove. So I know I'm a little bit under market, but it's okay. There's some stability with having that tenant there. So
Wow. I mean, even then, 2,600 for a 1 bedroom, guys, in Garden Grove. Yeah.
yeah. So here's the design. And like I said, this is 500 square feet.
Mm.
And this is one of my favorite designs. You've got the kitchen living room combo at the front, um, with the front door entrance, then the bathroom in the middle, and the stackable laundry in the middle of the house, and then the bedroom at the rear, with the sliding patio doors out to a private backyard. And that's another important thing to note is how can you give some outdoor space to all of these tenants, which is really important. Well, we learned how important that was during the pandemic, to have some
Right.
outdoor space.
Hmm.
So you'll see how this translates into the house. It's so weird to see how it going up, because you look at this, you think, how is this ever going to fit everything? And then the walls go up and you're like, and then you see it starting to come together.
Wow, that's so
So
nice. Yeah,
yeah.
I see a whole bunch all the time, and I'm just like, I've seen ground up, and you're right, when you see it in the footing phase, you're like, how is this all gonna make sense? But it somehow comes out beautifully if you choose the right people to work with and if you know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
I love this slide because when I saw it, I like how you put on there, I love you and your cash flow too.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And that's one of my favorite colors, that blue on the door.
That blue, that turquoise, yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually lived in this for a few months, and so therefore I've got my instruments in there, but I kept most of the furniture in there and I rent it furnished. So these pictures are the living room kitchen combo, and you can see how spacious that is.
Hmm.
Very comfortable. And then you go down the hallway, you've got the bathroom and the stackable laundry off the hallway. And then at the rear, you have the bedroom,
The patio.
and then that sliding patio door out to a private yard space.
I think sliding doors in the bedroom or in the kitchen dining area out to the patio is very, very crucial just
Yeah.
to make it feel more open. Now, when you're coming
Yes.
up with these design layouts with the architect that you work with, are you coming up with these, or are you kind of just sharing with him or her what you want and they kind of know your style already? How does that come about when you're working the design phase?
Yeah, well, initially they sort of came up with the design, but then, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I sort of think it through. When you look at something, it's like, okay, how do I want to see? I don't want a window right there. I want to be able to walk out into,
Mhm.
and back then the setbacks were 15 feet. And at the time, I'm like, oh, 15 feet, I'm wasting so much space. But in hindsight, look at how nice of a space of a private yard that is. So you want to just think through, and even where you have your windows. I think the designer on this one had a window right where that headboard was. I'm like, how annoying is that to have your bed covering part of the window? So
Right.
we took that out, and there's a window on the opposite side there. So there's still lots of light in that room, but a minor detail like that, it's like think through where the furniture is going to be so you don't have windows in the way of that. So yeah, a lot of little details I've learned along the way, and just tried to get better at this design and make them really functional.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's get into the garage conversion on that same property. This is about 18 by 22, 206, I'm sorry, 360 square
Mhm.
feet-ish, something like this it turned out to be. So again, it was just a matter of just, I knew I wanted laundry in the unit. You can put a stand-up shower, it doesn't have to be a bathtub, so that saved a little bit of room. And actually, I made a few changes along the way. I didn't end up putting a closet there. I ended up putting a Murphy bed. So here are the
Mm.
pictures for that.
Oh, I like
So
that. I
look at
like
how
that
nice of a
cabinet
kitchen. I
color.
mean, that's spacious. Now, this is a 24-inch fridge, which in hindsight is too small.
Mhm.
Definitely do 28-inch fridge. The
Right.
24s are just too small. I would have rather sacrificed that pantry on the right there and had a bigger fridge. But anyway, I chose to just do a 2-burner stove with the micro hood over top. You don't really need a full stove in these little units.
Well,
I
that's what
did
I
the
was gonna say.
stackable.
I think even though
Mhm.
the refrigerator is small for this unit under 400 square feet, for what is that for one person, maybe
Yeah,
two at the most. I think it's
yeah.
still a good
It's
size
still
and
it's
yeah,
still a
still
decent
doable.
size, yeah. And I always want the laundry. I mean, that's a pain for somebody to have to cart their laundry, down the street to a laundromat. So it's a closet, I tuck in some brooms and other things on the side of the machines there. And then the bathroom. Do I have another space that? No, I showed the 2-burner stove. I got that off Amazon, believe it or not. And
Oh,
then the
nice.
sink, yeah, the sink as well. Um, and then the Murphy bed, and I got this from Bretta Beds.
Okay.
And it can be a couch or it can be a bed.
Yeah, that's
So
very functional. I see that.
yeah, yeah. And so to the right, that cupboard there has shelves in it, and then to the right, I just built a clothes hanger. So I mean, it's super functional for one
So
max two
you
people.
basically do these projects yourself from start to finish and outsource or delegate and manage your subcontractors and architects, and you kind of built your own team, I'm assuming, at this point?
Yeah, I mostly just work with a GC, a general contractor. We've worked together on a lot of projects for the last 14 years or so.
Mhm.
And then so he really coordinates all the subs. I don't try to
Got it.
piece all that out. So yeah, so we're still doing some. I've got, I think, 4 more to go or something. And
Nice.
we're doing them for selectively for others as well. If somebody wants a construction bid for that, I'm happy to
Okay.
give a quote on that. Yeah. So, oh, here's a couple more pictures. Oh, a mini split. I will mention this. Those are super efficient these days. I mean, they spit out air conditioning and heat, and just that's the way to go for sure.
I
I've
would say
got
that's the
all
way
of
to go,
those.
especially for anything under 500 square feet. You really don't need to have the whole ducting and have a central AC. These are
No.
very efficient for
Yeah.
small units like that, and
Yeah.
they're cost effective. And I like how they sit right there on the side and they don't take up too much space.
Exactly.
Just like a tankless water heater
Yep.
would, right? And so yeah, I think that's a good point. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't think about it, especially here in Long Beach, because technically we don't really use it until it's August or September.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, it would be nice, and it's also an amenity for that tenant.
Yep. Yep. And for the cost, just you're doing everything else new, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, oh, that's it. That's it. So I put my contact up there if you want it, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Um, for anybody. Yeah. So,
Yeah, if anybody wants to take a picture of this, and I will be sharing it on our on YouTube, right? So I will make sure to put in your information. You have a YouTube channel as well, right? Do you want to share
well,
that?
actually, I did a little documentary on that last one I just showed you, the
Okay.
garage
Hmm.
conversion.
Hmm.
Just it's just Kristi Cirtwill is my YouTube name or whatever. And it's more for fun. It's not really a professional thing, but I thought, you know what, I want to document the. Oh, your
My
light went
light's
out.
turning off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
just wanted
that's
to
great.
document it. I thought it'd be fun to show that. So
I think people always want to see the behind the scenes or the process. I have a Instagram page called the ADU Play where I show different projects and different phases and different reasons why people are building them, just
yeah,
to bring awareness around the strategy. Because even though you and I have started since, since the early phases of ADUs, a lot of people still don't know about it. A lot of people
yeah,
don't understand the
yeah,
process. There's a lot of moving pieces, but when you show a presentation like yours, now they see it and it's more attainable. Now you've opened up their mindset to the possibility of them doing it. And I guarantee that for those of you listening to this podcast, what happened to me is now I can't unsee my ADU. Like I unlocked my ADU third eye,
yes,
right? And now I'm sure this happens to you. Like every property that you probably drive by or you go see, now you're looking at highest and best use, and you're looking at creative ways on how to structure the not only the deal, but also the property and the layout and all
yeah,
these components that come into it. But it comes natural when you're constantly in that space and constantly
yeah,
looking at it from that angle, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anybody it doesn't matter if you're a realtor,
Oh, kind of lost you there. Where'd she go?
a couple of these.
You
Oh,
kind of froze there. Is
did
that
I
me?
froze?
You're
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right,
Yes.
we're back.
Okay. Whoops, we
Okay.
froze there. Yeah, no, I was just saying I would just encourage everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner, a realtor, an investor, a homeowner, just, try to have a couple of these for your retirement plan. You'll thank yourself 20, 30 years down the road.
I agree. Now, what is your goal? I feel like we're gonna have to have a next another episode to follow up on all these projects you have going on. But we'll share a little bit about your goals. What does Kristi want to do in the next 5 years? Like, what is your vision, and how many ADUs would you say you'd have by that time? And what your ultimate exit strategy is in life.
Yeah. Well, that's a big question.
I know
Um,
it's a loaded one, right?
yeah, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, I'm still gonna be in the real estate game. Like I've said, I've got 3 or 4 more I want to build. I've got a big project in LA, and by big, I mean I'm building a couple of houses plus 3 ADUs on that property. So,
Oh wow.
I'm just waiting for permits on that. So hopefully I get permits in a couple of months, and then that'll keep me busy for a year and a half. And, hopefully in a couple of years, I'll have a dozen of these things, and then I can maybe work part-time instead of full-time. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll get too
exactly.
bored for that.
I think you're very passionate about it though, so I get this vibe that even if you were in a position to work part-time, you probably would still do it full-time. You enjoy what you do, and I think helping others is the biggest fulfillment. Like I see myself doing this all the time, and I enjoy what I do. And I enjoy sharing the strategy that not a lot of people are aware of. And like you said, it anybody can do this. A first-time home buyer, an investor, a multifamily developer, an architect, contractors. I think it goes with everything, right? Like realtors, we're so focused on commission and every transaction. Developers are focused on every project, and rarely do we keep all these doors. We're just
Yeah,
like servicing them, constructing them, building them, selling them, but not keeping them. And so
yeah.
bringing this topic is very important for me as well, because I think that we need to all do better and figuring out ways and how we can keep these doors versus just building them and selling them off, right?
I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm happy to just help people, even do a little consultation with them
Hmm.
like I can tell a lot by the computer and just talking to them on the phone just to get them started. Because when you look 30 years ago at what houses cost, I mean, that's what it's going to be in 30 years from now. So you might as well own a little piece of California real estate, and the land is the most expensive part. Why not
Right,
put a second house on that if you can and increase the value, force that appreciation, like you said.
right. I agree. Well, any closing thoughts, Kristi? I really want to thank you for your time. I know that you're busy and I thank you for that presentation. I don't think we've had, well, Jesse, who's a midterm rental expert, shared, he didn't even have a presentation actually. He just shared his story. So this
Yeah.
is officially our first
You saw the
presentation
pictures.
slash podcast, and I really dig it. That was your idea, so thank you for that. I'm always
Oh, yeah.
open to suggestions, and I think it was very informative. And when I hear it back, once I hear it on Spotify, I think it's just going to be very valuable to share what you were talking about as you were showing us the pictures. So I think for people who are listening on Spotify, you guys can also check it on YouTube. You guys will see the visuals on YouTube and get to see her presentation. I will be sharing this on all audio platforms and also on YouTube. And please follow Kristi. And also for any of investors or wholesalers or anybody who has hoarder homes, I know you work by referral only, but maybe,
Yes.
maybe somebody's listening to us and they have one and they don't know what to do with it and you need guidance, what to do with the hoarder home that a family member has, or maybe you're in a situation like that, feel free to reach out to Kristi. She knows all about that, right? And how can people connect with you for those services and ADU consulting services as well?
Yeah, just my phone number, my email. I'm on Facebook and YouTube, and LinkedIn. So yeah, my phone number 562-400-2953. And I actually have a couple ADUs in progress right now. So one in Lakewood,
Oh, nice.
another one coming up in Garden Grove. So if anybody actually wants to meet on site and, touch and feel and see, then you're welcome to do that too. So
Well, you and I will connect offline. I'll talk to you offline, but I think we can coordinate maybe I like an ADU open house
that'd be
and
cool.
bring it
Yeah.
to investors, right? And offer some catering and waters and drinks and just have it be a more welcoming experience for people to see it come to light. And you sharing your experience, I think will encourage people to feel confident, but then also take action with the knowledge
Yeah.
that they've seen.
Yeah.
And I
Let's
think
do that for sure.
yeah, we should definitely do that. So I'll coordinate that with her offline, guys. But I want to thank you again for your time and thanks to the listeners who week in, week out show support. The few of you, I really appreciate it. And we'll be back. Kristi will be back on the show. I think that we should have one in a couple of months to see your progress and see where the other projects are going. So
Sounds
thank
good
you.
to me.
All
Okay,
right,
thanks,
guys.
Stephanie.
Well, thank you, Kristi. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.